The house I grew up in, the one my parents still live in, sits at the dead end of a quiet street. Beyond our backyard, there's nothing but woods. The land slopes sharply upwards, becoming what everyone in town just calls the Ridge. It's not an official park, just the dark spine of rock and pine that separates our little suburb from the next county over. During the day, it's beautiful. There are a few unofficial trails that hardcore hikers and trail runners use. On a clear morning, if you get up to the highest point, you can see the sunrise paint the whole valley gold. But the ridge has a second life after the sun goes down. It's isolated, unlit, and impossible for a police cruiser to navigate. It's the perfect place for people who don't want to be seen. Teenagers go up there to drink, and others, folks from the rougher side of town, go up there for things a lot stronger than beer. We learn to ignore the occasional late-night shouting or the flicker of a lonely flashlight among the trees. My bedroom window on the second floor looks directly out onto the main path leading up the ridge. For years, it was just a backdrop, a dark, silent painting I barely noticed. That changed 5 years ago. I haven't been able to look at it the same way since. I was home from college on a break, and between a summer job and catching up with friends, I was running on fumes. That night, I decided to just stay in and decompress. It was around 2 a.m. I was lying in bed with my headphones on, letting some ambient music wash over me, trying to finally coax my brain into shutting down. That's when Max started barking. Max was our boxer, and he was the most fiercely protective, yet goofiest member of our family. He had two barks. There was the high-pitched, excited yapping for squirrels or the mailman. Then there was his real bark, a deep, guttural warning from the chest that he saved for things he perceived as a genuine threat. This was the real one. I pulled off my headphones and sat up. I could hear him downstairs, not just barking, but throwing his solid 80-pound frame against the front door. I sighed, assuming it was probably just a deer or a raccoon. I went to my window, which was already open to let in the cool night air. The streetlights cast a weak orange glow that died just a few feet from the tree line, leaving the path up the ridge in near total darkness. I saw him then, a skinny figure in a hoodie, moving with a jittery energy as he started up the trail. A user, I figured. Just another lost soul heading to their sanctuary. I didn't give it a second thought. "It's okay, Max," I called down, my voice muffled by the floor. "Settle down, boy." His barking subsided into a low, unhappy grumble. I went back to my music. It must have been 20, maybe 30 minutes later when Max went off again. This time was different. It wasn't a warning. It was sheer panic. The barks were frantic, interspersed with desperate whines. I heard his claws scrabbling against the door, a sound of pure terror. I flew back to the window, my heart suddenly thumping against my ribs. The quiet of the night was shattered by another sound now. The frantic crunch of feet on gravel and dry leaves coming down the path. Fast. Impossibly fast.
It was the same guy from before, the one in the hoodie. He wasn't jogging or running, he was fleeing. He was a blur of motion, arms pumping wildly, his head screwed around to look back into the darkness behind him. He ran with the kind of primal terror you only see in nature documentaries, the gazelle sprinting for its life from a lion it knows it can't outrun. His feet tangled as he hit the flatter ground near the street, and he went down hard. A choked sob escaped him, audible even from my window, but he didn't stay down. He scrambled back to his feet with a surge of adrenaline and kept going, sprinting down the steep grade of our street toward the main avenue at the bottom, disappearing from my sight. He never once looked where he was going, only back at the empty, silent woods he'd just escaped. I just stood there, breathing heavily, my mind racing. "What the hell?" I whispered. My first thought was a drug deal gone bad. Maybe they'd been robbed or another junkie had pulled a knife on him. That had to be it. People tweaking out on the ridge were unpredictable. I was about to turn away from the window to go comfort my still whimpering dog when a flicker of movement by the big granite boulder near the trailhead caught my eye. We called it Sentinel Rock. It's a huge, distinctive landmark, probably a good 7 feet tall. People climb on top of it for photos. Behind the rock, something was standing there. At first, I could barely make it out. It was a tall, slender shape, and it was pale, white. My brain tried to rationalize it. A trick of the moonlight on a silver birch tree? A piece of trash caught on a branch? But it was too still, too solid. It looked like a woman wearing something that resembled a long white nightgown. What unnerved me was her height. Even from this distance, I could tell she was taller than Sentinel Rock. Her head and shoulders were clearly visible above it. This is impossible, I thought. My eyes are playing tricks on me. It's late. I rubbed them hard with the heels of my palms, trying to clear the image. When I looked again, my blood ran cold. In the single second I had looked away, she had moved. She was no longer behind the rock. She was standing at the edge of the woods, right where the trail meets the street, partially bathed in the sickly orange glow of the streetlight. And I could see her clearly now. She was skeletally thin, her limbs long and stick-like under the white garment. Her hair was a black, tangled mess that hung down past her waist. She was tall, impossibly tall, taller than any human I had ever seen. I'm 6'1", and this thing would have towered over me. I'm not exaggerating when I say she must have been 8 feet tall. She just stood there, perfectly still, a marble statue of dread. Downstairs, Max had stopped barking. He was now making a sound I had never heard from him before, a high, thin, keening noise. It was the sound of pure, abject fear. My gaze snapped back to the figure, and then, as if she knew I was watching, she turned her head to look directly up at my window, to look directly at me. I swear on my life, I will take the image of that face to my grave. Her skin was a waxy, corpse-like white, but it was her smile that broke my sanity. It was stretched impossibly wide, a grotesque black gash that split her face from ear to ear, filled with teeth that were too long, too sharp. And her eyes, they were just empty black pits. No iris, no sclera, just 2 holes of absolute nothingness that seemed to suck in the light around them. I was paralyzed. My breath caught in my throat and my muscles locked up. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I couldn't even look away. We were locked in this terrifying communion, the creature on the street and me in my window, with 50 yards of asphalt and lawn between us. Then, the most horrifying thing happened. She fell. Just pitched forward. There was no attempt to catch herself. She dropped, face first, onto the pavement with a dry, hollow thwack. She lay there for a long moment, a broken doll in a heap. I thought maybe she was gone, that it was over. My mind, desperate for an explanation, screamed hallucination. But then her limbs began to move. They started to stretch, to elongate with a series of soft, wet, cracking sounds that I felt more than heard. Her arms and legs bent at angles that weren't humanly possible, joints popping and reforming. They grew longer and thinner, like a spider's legs unfolding until she was propped up on these newly formed, needle-thin appendages. Her body, the torso, was suspended in the middle. Her head, still pressed to the asphalt, slowly twisted around, the crunch of vertebrae audible even from my room. It rotated a full 180 degrees until she was looking up at me again, upside down. Her sickening, impossibly wide smile seemed to stretch even further. My vision started to swim. A wave of nausea and vertigo washed over me. I felt a crushing pressure in my chest, the frantic, panicked fluttering of a heart about to give out. This couldn't be real. It was a nightmare. It had to be. But it was real, because that thing, that spider-legged horror with the upside-down face, started to move.
It scuttled sideways across the street, its movements jerky and unnatural, never breaking eye contact. Its new limbs tapped and scraped against the asphalt, a sound like dry bones clattering together. It moved with a horrifying speed, closing the distance between the woods and my house. It reached my front lawn and stopped, its black eyes boring into me. It gathered its limbs beneath its torso, bunching them up like a grasshopper preparing to spring. It was going to jump. It was going to jump to my window. The last thing I remember is the sound of Max letting out a single, sharp cry of agony from downstairs. Then the world went black. I woke up to my mom gently shaking me. Sunlight was streaming through my window. I was on the floor, tangled in my sheets. My dad was standing in the doorway, his face etched with worry. "Are you okay?" my mom asked, her voice trembling. "We heard a crash. We found you on the floor." I couldn't speak. I couldn't tell them what I saw. How could I? They would have thought I was insane, that I'd had some kind of psychotic break. I just mumbled something about a bad dream and feeling faint. It was later that morning that my dad sat me down. His eyes were red. "Son," he said, his voice thick with grief. "Max, he passed away last night. We found him by the front door. The vet said, it looks like his heart just gave out. A massive heart attack." The news broke something inside me. He was my dog. I'd had him since he was a puppy, and his last act on this earth was trying to protect us, trying to protect me from that thing. His heart didn't just give out. It was scared out of his body. A few days passed in a blur of grief and suppressed terror. I avoided my bedroom window, keeping the blinds shut tight. Then a friend shared a post in a local community Facebook group. It was one of those rest in peace memorials, with a picture of a young man with hollowed-out eyes. I recognized him immediately. It was the guy from the ridge. The post said he'd been found unresponsive near the trail entrance. The family asked for privacy. There was no mention of a cause of death. A month or so later, I finally worked up the courage to tell someone. I told my closest friend, Kevin, who lived a few blocks over. I told him everything, expecting him to laugh or to suggest I see a therapist. But he just listened, his face growing paler with every word. When I was done, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that chills me to this day. "My grandfather," he started, his voice barely a whisper. "He lived his whole life in this town. He used to tell us kids to never go up on the ridge after dark. He said there's something that sleeps up there, something ancient and wrong. He said that sometimes when it gets hungry, it comes down. And he always used to say the same thing. That thing is greedy. It's never satisfied with just one." I don't know what I saw that night. A demon? A spirit? Something else entirely? I don't need a name for it. All I know is that it was real. I know it took the life of a desperate young man and the bravest dog I've ever known. And I know that it looked at me, saw me, and was about to take me too. My parents still live in that house. I visit, but I can't stay the night. I can't sleep in that room. Because sometimes when I'm there late, I feel it. A cold pressure against the windows. A sense of being watched from the dark tree line. It's still out there. sleeping on the ridge. And I know, with a certainty that freezes the marrow in my bones, that it's still hungry.
It was Crow's greatest night. Crow watched us in the dark outside the campfire, learning, crafting, practicing for his greatest performance, his wedding ceremony. Crow was Michelle's fiancé, after all, and he would make it clear she belonged to him. I thought it would be the best night of my life. The campfire lit Michelle, the best girl in the world. Her freckled face flushed full of smiles, jokes she held back, and, I hoped, feelings she held back. The rest of our friends found something else to do around the cabin, which was pretty messed up. She's the one who paid for this pre-wedding getaway, and we're all supposed to be here to celebrate her. However, she was never the best at picking good friends or boyfriends, which is part of the reason we're even here now. So, this is a little awkward, Michelle said in a lull between laughs and toyed with her glasses. I suppose this is why you don't invite your ex to a joint bachelor and bachelorette party, I smirked. Caught off guard, her glasses slipped from her hand and fumbled toward the fire. I dashed forward, saving them. The heat of the fire stoked the back of my hand as I waited on one knee for her to accept them from me. Her hand wavered above the glasses. The whole thing felt taboo. Her ex-boyfriend on one knee for her, just past midnight beside a healthy fire. Still nervous, still delicate, Michelle took them from my hand, clasping my hand and lingering there. Michelle always had the opposite effect on me that I had on her. With Shell, I'm confident. With Shell, I can do whatever I want. I jumped. Behind her, sneaking out of the shadows of his cabin, was her fiancé. We made eye contact before he slumped away, like a supervillain. What? Michelle asked, noticing my face. Is he out here? Did he see? She spun around. Yeah, I'm sorry. I should go. I had my suspicions of Crow, but this wasn't right. A week before their marriage, what was I thinking? I avoided eye contact as I walked away from her back to my room. No, Adrian, stay. It was her party after all. Who was I to ever say no? Well, ever since we broke up. In the relationship was another story. I looked for Crow creeping in the shadows, as he liked to do, but he hid well. Shadows, corners, and beside doors. Crow always found a way to stay back and observe. I know what she saw in him, and it wasn't good. She didn't chase love. Michelle wanted someone too shy to leave her. I didn't go back to my seat across from her. I sat in the chair beside her. Yes, well, Crow thought it was a good idea, Shell said. Not scooting away from me, but getting comfortable. Our thighs touched. Since we grew up together as best friends and all. Does he know? No, he doesn't know why we broke up. I just told him we had mutual differences. Michelle smiled, and I saw the mischievous kid she once was flash on her face. Never around her parents, never around school, only around me. You're not scared of him, are you? She asked with a wicked smile. Why would I be scared of him? I asked. He's bigger than you. We both let the innuendo sit. And he has a massive... Michelle, dude, stop. No. I scooted away. She slid closer. What? Why does it surprise you? He's so tall. No, I'm just surprised you let him make decisions, considering I let that sit. Yes, we are getting married. Of course he can make decisions. But I should have finished. I should have called it what it was, a sham of a marriage that she was too good for. She met this guy online through a sketchy dating service, and he barely spoke English. Essentially, he was a mail-order husband. I would do anything for her to marry me, but even if it wasn't me, she should find someone to love her. I said none of that because I wanted to see her smile. So I said, "Do you still believe in aliens?" I got my wish. Michelle beamed and hooked my arm into hers. Yes, 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 so much yes. I got one book on it that relates our folklore to modern alien sightings. It's called They've Always Been With Us. A friend gave it to me. Her husband wrote it. Oh, which friend? I asked. Did she come to the cabin? No, she's been really busy with her husband recently. She paused, like something wasn't right. But anyway, the book is based on interviews from those who've been abducted. They very well could be describing what we thought was just folklore, like banshees, vampires, and changelings. Michelle placed her head on my shoulder, maybe platonic, maybe more. Flames shone on half her face and her orange hair. The rest was covered in shadow. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "You just can't tell anybody else. They'll think I'm a freak." Yeah, I nuzzled my head on top of hers. We watched the sticks fall in the fire as she told me a secret. "So this book," she said, "it had the theory that certain spells were really codes to bring the aliens down here, like an all clear, like you can come to this place. Almost how you'd signal a plane to come down. So summoning demons or whatever witches and warlocks did was really summoning aliens, like telling them where they were a safe space to land." Okay, that's interesting. Here's the part that's going to scare you. I found one for changelings, and I did it. She sat up and smiled. "So, Crow, he's a changeling." Her smile stopped, and she folded her arms. "No, what? Ew, no. I tried to summon one and nothing happened." "Wait, no, what's the punchline then? Why tell the story without a punchline?" "Because it's embarrassing and supposed to be funny and you're supposed to laugh." "Yeah, ha ha," I said sarcastically. But it did work. I knew there was something strange about him. How can you even afford a mail-order husband? You're not rich. "It's an arranged marriage, and that's very mean," and I cut her off. Time was running out. The wedding was a week away, now or never. "There's certain opportunities here in the U.S. I quoted the phrase I heard from Crow verbatim. Yeah, I've heard him say it. "I want you to think, though. Jace and I were talking about this earlier." Oh, Jace. Chel's eyes rolled. Until then, she had never had a problem with Jace. He was another childhood friend. She knew him better than Crow, and he was definitely a better guy than half of the people on this trip. Half of the guests on this trip treated me like trash. I didn't know what was going on in her head, but I pressed on. "Yes, Jace and I were talking. He's weird, Chel. I need you to think and put it together. Nothing makes sense about him." My heart raced. I saw the gears turning in her head. Michelle knew I had a point. Then he came. Crow's hand landed on my shoulder, a hand so large his fingers pressed into the veins of my neck and pushed down my shoulder. I didn't look up at him. Being next to him was like being next to a bear. There's a possible finality with every encounter. Crow stretched out to be 7 feet tall, blocking out the moon with his height, and Crow was massive enough to fill every door frame he entered, his shadow covering me, Michelle, and the fire. But you know the strangest part about him? He looks a lot like me. Not the impressive physical features, but eye color, hair, olive skin tone, chubby cheeks, and slight overbite. Of course, I couldn't say that to anyone. What would I say? This 7-foot-tall giant looks a lot like me except for all the interesting parts. "Hello, Adrian, can I sit?" he said. "Yeah, of course." I said and scooted over. He plopped on the log, breaking some parts and pushing me off. I moved to another seat. The two lovers snuggled. I stayed long enough to be polite, and then I got up to leave. "No, stay," Crow said. "Keep Michelle company, I beg you. I'm going to bed early." He leaned over to kiss Michelle. "Good night, babe." "Good night," she said and turned her cheek to him. Caught off guard, he planted one on her cheek instead of her lips. I watched him leave. Creepy Crow didn't go back to his cabin, he went to the woods. "Oh, look, he's going back home," I joked. "You should go. This isn't appropriate." "Hey, he asked me to stay." "It's fine. I can be alone." "It doesn't look like it," I said, only feeling the weight of my words after the hurt smacked across Michelle's face. "Michelle, no, I'm sorry. It was a joke. I'm joking. He's fine." Michelle ignored me and headed to her cabin. "Michelle, come on. I'm sorry." Chell. I stayed by the fire alone and thinking that in a way, this really was all my fault, and that guilt might eat me alive. Perhaps half an hour deep into contemplation, I heard music come from the woods. I followed the sounds into the woods, my footsteps crunching over dead leaves and snapping twigs that sounded too loud in my ears, but eventually even that died, drowned by a fiddle. Wild, frantic fiddle notes spiraled through the trees like they were being chased. Whistles darted after them, high and sharp, and then thudded a drum pounding with a rhythm that felt wrong, like a three-legged elephant. My heart matched it, racing loud in my ears. After much researching after the fact, I found the song they sang is called The Stolen Child. Where dips the rocky highland of Sleuth Wood in the lake, there lies a leafy island, where flapping Huron's lake the drowsy water rats. There we've hid our fairy vats, full of berries and of reddest stolen cherries. Come away, O human child, to the waters in the wild with the fairy, hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than you can understand. I pushed past a final curtain of branches and froze. My breath caught in my throat. There, in a clearing lit by moonlight, and something else, something green and pulsing from the earth itself, Crow danced. Not the wobbling toe-to-heel walk he did around the cabin. This was fluid, expert, his massive frame spinning and leaping like a ballerina. And he wasn't alone. They moved with him, things that might have been human once, or tried to be. Their heads were too thick, swollen like overripe fruit ready to burst, and their eyes either bulged from their sockets or stared unblinking, refusing to close. Skin hung on them in folds and creases, like old paper left too long in the sun. Their bodies bent wrong, backs curved into humps that made them list to one side, arms and legs thin as kindling that shouldn't support their weight. Some had bellies that swelled and sagged, tight and distended. All of them had that same sickly pallor, a yellowish white like spoiled milk. They danced around Crow in a circle, and Crow danced with them, and the music played on. I realized with a sick feeling in my gut that Crow was teaching them how to move, how to be human. And they sang the second verse. Away with us he's going, the solemn-eyed. He'll hear no more the lowing of the calves on the warm hillside, or the kettle on the hob sing peace into his breast, or see the brown mice bob round and round the oatmeal chest. For he comes, the human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for the world's more full of weeping than he can understand. I ran back to the cabins, bursting inside to the smell of weed and the blare of beeps coming from his switch. Byron, the best gamer of the group, seemed to be playing terribly at his game. His eyes bulged like I was some cop, and he tossed his blunt aside. I practically leapt to him. I need you. Haha, dude, I thought you'd never ask. Not like that. Come to the woods with me now. There's something you need to see. Byron sighed for a long time. He snuggled himself in his blanket as he sat on the edge of the bed. His switch flashed the words "Game Over" again and again. Byron picked up the game again and ready to start again. Nah, I'm good here. This is an emergency. It's about Michelle. We have to save her. Nah, sorry, dude. My legs hurt. Please, I said. You're just high and lazy. Come on. I grabbed at the blanket and pulled. Byron tossed his precious switch and pulled back. It clattered to the floor, likely broken. Byron didn't seem to care. Dude, I'm staying here. What's your problem? I braced myself, pulling with all I had. I don't want to exaggerate, but her life could be in danger. Either you or Jace have to do it. Where's Jace? He left, man. I don't know. He left, I yelled. You're telling me Jace left after buying a plane ticket? I laughed. Jace, who completed the survey on the back of receipts for free food. Jace, who pirated everything. Jace, who refused to buy a laptop because you can use Microsoft Word from your phone. That Jace paid to get a new flight home? Frustrated, I pulled the blanket with all my might, bringing Byron to the floor. He got up quickly, staggered, and wobbled. Byron stumbled backward, arms flailing, but didn't fall. He wobbled to the left, hands in the air like an inflatable outside of a car sales lot, then to the right, then forward, then backward. Crunch. Something broke. Byron stood in front of me, his feet twisted inward so his toes touched. It looked horrific. My skin crawled. My brain lapsed. How could one push do that? Byron, sorry, I cut myself off. Byron didn't look in pain, just annoyed. I can never get the feet right once I start moving, he said with a stutter he never had before. Cluck, cluck, cluck. Byron flicked his tongue as if he was glued to his mouth and he was trying to free it. And then my speech messes up. Byron, I asked, are we still doing this? We can't be honest. Do I sound like Byron? Can't you tell I'm something else? The voice that came out did not belong to Byron. The accent belonged to someone in Northern Europe and was full of bitterness. I ran back to the fire. It was dying, and the world felt colder. Michelle had come back, alone. Hey, Adrian. Sorry I ran off. I was just feeling... Michelle, enough. You're in danger, and we're leaving. Michelle, now. She got up to run from me, as if I was the problem. I'm not going anywhere with you. Think again, Michelle. Think honestly to yourself. What happened to Jace? I chased after her. She ignored me, but I got her eventually. I grabbed her wrist. Where's Jace? I made Crow kick him out because he was the same prick he always was. He just came up here to try to have sex with me, but I don't have to deal with that anymore. I didn't know that, but still. Think, how did you afford Crow? I asked again. I saved, Adrian. I saved because I want somebody who won't leave me. I won't leave you, Michelle. I love you. Then why didn't you stay when you had the chance? When we were together, why did you cheat on me? That part always hurts retelling it, because that's when I realized it was my fault. All my fault. I let her wrist go. I can love you now. The words croaked out like I was the creature from another world struggling to speak. My tongue felt thick and my words fell out hollow. Please, just give me another chance, or give anyone another chance. Not him. Trust me. I can't trust you, Adrian. I gave my heart, so now you don't get to pick. Now you don't get to pick who I fall in love with. Hello, Thal. I whirled around, saw Crow, and stepped in front of Michelle, keeping her away from him. Should I go? Crow asked. Yes, actually, we're going to go home, I said. Can you pack the bags, Crow? Come on, Chell. I reached out to her. No, I'm sick of everyone using me. She leaped up on her own and looked rabid. Dirt flowed down her red hair. You guys can take the cabin for the last night. I'm done. Crow, we're leaving. She stormed off. Crow tried to follow her. I grabbed the stick from the fire. Its edge burned red hot. What are you? I asked him. Something that has waited, he whispered. What? What's that mean? Something that is patient. What are you talking about? Something that can wait for his pleasure until the very end. Where's Jace? Where's the real Byron? Where Michelle will be. I charged, stick first. He caught my wrist. The red glowing stick rested inches away from his heart. With my left hand, I pushed his face inside. I hurt myself, not him. His smile hung in a strange O shape. With both of my legs, I swung my body to hit his legs and bring him down. He was as resilient as stone. My kick to his groin did nothing. Exhausted, defeated, I let go to regroup. Still, I had to save Michelle. I want to thank you, Adrian, he said. I charged again, expecting nothing better, but knowing I had to try. It worked. I stabbed into his chest, he fell to the floor, and I got to work, aiming for any soft part of his body to cut into. Thank you, Adrian, he said. To be like you, to finish my transformation, I thought I would have to put on such a performance. But no, all I had to do was not be you, and she fell into my arms. Thank you for your wickedness. Michelle screamed. I looked up and saw her running across the cabin to save her man. Adrian still smiled, knowing he played his role perfectly, the perfect victim. Michelle knocked me over. I'm told my head bounced against the earth, dragging me from consciousness. I, of course, was uninvited to the wedding. Everyone who was there was. They held a small wedding at the courthouse. She wore white and put her hair in a bun and wore her glasses as opposed to her contacts that day. She always said she would do that because it would be authentic. That's the last I saw of her. Not even a Facebook post or Snapchat story, until I got a message from her about 3 months after the day she left the cabin. I'll show you. Chell. Hey man, how's it going? Long time no see. Me. It's so good to hear from you. I was worried, to be honest. I just want to apologize. How are things going with Crow? Haha, hey, the past is the past. Really good. He wrote a book. In fact, I'm messaging you because I'd really appreciate it if you supported us and read it and tried it out. Me. Oh, that's awesome. What's it called? Chell. They've always been with us. That's odd. Was it inspired by the one you showed me? Huh? Why so many emojis? It's not like you. Yes, it is. I guess you didn't notice before. But to answer your question, nope, only one such book in existence. Hey, Chell, why'd we break up? Whoa, weird question to ask someone, but mutual differences. I didn't text her back.
If you're reading this, it's because I have no other choice. Nobody will listen to me, not even the police. It's only a matter of time before they come for me, and when they do, this is the only evidence of the truth. There is something under the boardwalk in Paradise Point, and it's hungry. October is always a terribly slow month. We're barely open, but the owners want to squeeze every penny they can before this town is completely empty. Even on a Friday night, it's already a ghost town. That's where this all began. A cold, deafeningly quiet night at the record shop I spend my days working in. Spectres, Records and Rarities, a store that really was dead in the water until vinyl made a huge comeback. We also sold shirts that you might find a middle schooler wearing, even though they wouldn't be able to name a single song off the album they're donning. It really was a place frozen in time. The smell of dust and the decay of better days always filled the room. The best way to pass the time on a night like this would be to find a forgotten record to play. That was my favorite game, finding an album I'd never heard of and giving it a chance to win me over. After all, if I'm not going to play 'em, who will? Tonight's choice, Secret Treaties by Blue Oyster Cult. Of course, I knew Don't Fear the Reaper. Who doesn't? I never sat down and listened to their albums, even though their logo and album artwork always intrigued me. Seeing the album made me think of my dad. I remember him telling me about seeing them live with Uriah Heep at the old Spectrum in the 70s. I bet he still had the ticket stub, too. God, he loved that place. I even remember seeing him shed a tear the day they tore it down. The opening chords of Career of Evil blared out of my store speakers as I dropped the needle. Had my mind not been elsewhere, I wouldn't have startled myself into spilling my coffee. The previously white album cover and sleeve were now browned and tainted. Who would want it now? Looks like it was coming home with me. After all, a song titled Harvester of Eyes certainly had a place in my collection. The owner wouldn't care anyway. He had jokingly threatened to set the store ablaze for insurance money. Had this shop not been attached to others on this boardwalk, I wouldn't have put it past him. The opening track sold me, and given the state of business, I decided it was time to close up shop. The only thing louder than BOEC was the ticking clock that sat above an old Plan 9 from Outer Space poster. Just as the second track reached its finale, I lifted the needle. I retrieved one of our spare plastic sleeves to prevent any more damage and stowed it away in my backpack. I took a walk outside to see if there were any stragglers roaming the boards. All I could see was a long and winding road of half-closed shops and stiffened carnival rides, lit only by the amber sky of an autumn evening. Soon it would be dark, and the boardwalk would belong to the night and all that inhabited it. The garage doors of the shop slammed shut with a finality that reminded me of the months to come. The sound echoed around me, only to be consumed by the wind. It wasn't nearly as brutal as the gusty winter months, but it swirled with the open spaces as if it were dancing with the night. The padlock clicked as I scrambled the combination, and I turned to greet the darkness that painted over the beach. Summer was truly over now. The soundtrack of carnival rides, laughter, and stampeding feet was replaced with the moans of hardwood under my feet. Each step felt like I was disturbing somebody's grave. That was the reality of this place. 4 months out of the year, it's so full of life that it's overwhelming. The rest of its time is spent as a graveyard that is hardly visited. Maybe that's why I never left. If I don't visit, who will? Speaking of visiting, this was the point of my trek home that I saw Bane. They called him that because he was a rather large man, built like a hulking supervillain. In reality, he was as soft as a teddy bear, but unfortunately homeless. Even from the distance I saw him, which was 2 blocks away, there was no mistaking him. I only ever saw him sparingly. He never stayed in the same place for long and often slept under the boardwalk. I often thought he was self-conscious of his stature and didn't want to scare people.
I could see that he must have been taking in the same swirling twilight sky I had seen earlier. Now he was merely entertaining the stars. Looking to my left, I saw that Vincent's Pizzeria was closing up shop. They must have had a better run of business than I did. I slinked over to the counter to see a solitary slice looking for a home in the display case. The girl working the counter had her back to me, and as I began to make an attempt for her attention, she screamed. "Oh my God, you scared me," she gasped. Chuckling nervously, I apologized. "I'm sorry, I just wanted to grab that slice before you closed up." I made an honest try at a friendly smile, and she laughed. Sure, $3." As she threw the slice in the oven to warm it up, she turned her attention back to me. "So, any plans tonight?" I thought about it, and I really didn't have any. I knew my ritual at this point: work and then visit Mix for a drink or two until I've had enough to put me to sleep. I was going to head over to Mix, maybe catch the game for a bit. She grinned. I know Mix, right around the corner. Yeah, maybe I'll stop by. There isn't much else to do on a night like tonight. I handed her a $5 and signaled to her to keep the change. Maybe I'll see you there, I said half-heartedly, giving one last smile as I departed. She waved, and I focused my attention on the walk ahead. She seemed plenty nice. Might be nice to interact with someone. First, I had something I wanted to do. Bain was right where I last saw him, except now he was gathering his things. I approached him with some haste. "Hey, bud, I haven't seen you in a while." When he turned to see it was me, a smile grew across his face. "Hey, Mac, long time." In my patented awkward fashion, I continued, "It's been dead out here, huh?" Without looking up, he lamented, "Sure has. It's that time of year. Certainly not going to miss it." Puzzled, I pressed him. "What do you mean?" Once he finished packing his bag, he sighed, and his baritone voice continued, "I need to get some help. I'm going to that place in Somerdale and finally get myself clean." He sounded so absolute in what he was saying. I couldn't have been happier. "That's great, man. I'd give you a ride myself if I had a car." I chuckled. That really did make my night. He took another deep breath. "I just need to see her again."
He revealed a small photo in his pocket, presenting it in his large hands. The picture showed a newborn baby girl in the hands of the man in front of me. "I haven't really seen her since she was born. Once I lost my job and everything just started falling apart." He trailed off. He shook it off to say, "I'm just ready. Tonight's my last night. I have my bus ticket ready to go first thing in the morning. I just thought I would take in one last sunset and say goodbye to the others. I saved enough money to get me one night at the Eagle Nest." I was hard-pressed to find words. I didn't know he had a daughter. It was a lot to take in, but above all, I was so thrilled to hear what he was setting off to do. Remembering what I had in my hands, I spoke up. "Vincent's was closing up, and I thought you could use a bite. Since this is going to be the last time I'll see you, I won't take no for an answer." We both smirked. He reached up for the quickly cooling slice of pizza. "That's really nice of you, Mac. I appreciate it." Not sure what else to do, I shot my hand forward to him for a shake. "I really think what you're doing is great. It's been nice knowing you." He reached his enormous paw to mine and shook it. "You too. I'd say I'll see you again, but I really hope it's not here." He chuckled as he swung his bag onto his back. I smiled back and waved goodbye. As we made our separate ways, a question occurred to me. "Hey, what's your real name, by the way? Maybe I'll look you up someday to see how you're doing." Without turning fully around, he said, "It doesn't really matter." With that, he retreated into the night and left me to wonder what he meant by that. I was soon reaching the block where Mix resides. The pub was right off the boardwalk. The neon lights that illuminated nearby were shining across the face of the mighty King Kong ride. Thankfully, my work and home were all within a short walk of one another. Mix served as the ever-so-convenient median between the two. Mix was also where I picked up shifts in the off-season. They must have noticed the frequency with which I visited and decided to offer me a job. It was a solid gig. Mix was one of the few year-round places on the island. Locals gravitated toward it once the summer crowds dissipated. If I was going to spend my time there, I figured I might as well get paid. Just as I was rounding the corner to the off-ramp, something happened. A loose board that hugged the wall greeted my sneaker and sent me tumbling down. All this tourism revenue, and this damn boardwalk is still old enough for Medicare.
I turned over onto my side to see where my backpack had landed. It was adjacent to the culprit. I groaned as I reached over to grab it when something caught my eye. Along the wall, hiding just below the wood, I saw what looked like a wasp's nest. It was peeking out from the dark at me,
almost as if it was watching me. I peered at it, with the light of the pub guiding me. This wasn't a wasp's nest. It was a sickly pale yellow. Its texture looked wet, almost as if it was hot candle wax burning from a flame. Maybe the fall had disoriented me, but I could swear I saw it moving, rising and falling ever so subtly, like it was breathing. I adjusted my eyes as I leaned in. It wasn't very big, maybe the size of a tennis ball. It was riddled with holes, craters that left very little room for much else. I couldn't help but glare at them. Then it happened. They blinked at me.